Joining us now is the one and only former senator from Pennsylvania, former presidential candidate, soon to be future, I'm sure here, Senator Rick Santorum. Hello, Rick. How are you?
Hello there, Mr. Malmsberg. How are you this fine day?
I am good, good. It is a fine day. I understand you were with Mr. Cavuto, and that's always a good thing, and busy day for you. All right, so let me ask you this: as you look at what's going on and the world is blowing up around us, in particular in Egypt, I'll ask you what I've asked several others: how much a direct responsibility do you believe that this administration's actions with regard to Egypt from the get-go? How much responsibility do they bear for what's happening there now?
It goes back to the speech, the first foreign policy speech he gave in Cairo, where he basically told the Muslim Brotherhood and all radical Islamic organizations, "You're good with me, and we're going to reset the table, and we're going to have you as part of the discussion," which opened up the door for the Arab Spring, and you saw him side with the folks in the streets, which we knew the Muslim Brotherhood would be the strongest of those horses who would be replacing Mubarak. Then when the Muslim Brotherhood took charge, he accepted the legitimacy of this radical Islamic group as a governing party in Egypt, and now he's condemning the removal after it was very clear, crystal clear, that what Morsi and the Islamic Brotherhood, Muslim Brotherhood, were doing was the old Hugo Chavez. One man, one vote, one time. And they were going to consolidate power, and that was going to be the last of the elections, or last of any legitimate elections in Egypt. They were imposing very slowly but surely. They were imposing Sharia law, and we were going to end up with a radical Islamic head for Egypt. And for the president to stand aside and say, look, you got to put them back in power. You've got to stand down. And the president doesn't know who our enemies are, and that's because he refuses to define who the enemy is. And this is a direct result of all of that policy.
I couldn't agree with you more. Let me shift to domestic politics here. Newt Gingrich yesterday, speaking at the RNC summer meeting, said that the Republican Party has zero ideas for replacing Obamacare. And he said, quote, "We are caught up right now in a culture, and you see it every single day, where as long as we are negative and as long as we are vicious and as long as we can tear down our opponent, we don't have to learn anything, and so we don't." First of all, there's been many bills in the House passed as Obamacare alternatives, and there are plans in the waiting. Why do you think he would say that?
Well, I find that really remarkable that Newt would say that. I mean, Newt runs an organization for years called the Center for Health Transformation. If there's anybody who should say the Republicans don't, unless he doesn't identify himself as a Republican anymore, Newt has a lot of ideas about what health care is, and as far as I checked, he's still a Republican. And there's a lot of folks, including me, who thinks he has some pretty good ideas. Not every one of them, but a lot of them are good ideas. And in fact, there's a lot of Republicans who have good ideas as how to move forward into a more free market, private sector healthcare system. So who admit that government is the problem and healthcare not the solution, and there are ways in which we can structure the free market to allow for better patient care, for higher quality care at lower cost.
Yeah, I mean, he also said, I think part of what we have to do in the area of the Obamacare disaster is get beyond being anti-Obama. We have to reconvince people you could have hope in America and we could have a better future. I mean, I know he was hired by CNN to host Crossfire, but I didn't know this was a requirement.
Well, look, he is right in that being negative only is not an answer. I mean, if that's his point, okay, point given, you have to propose alternatives, but don't say that there aren't alternatives, and don't say that people don't propose alternatives. I think a legitimate criticism is we don't highlight alternatives as much as we do, but when you're a minority party, as he well knows because he served in the minority for a long time and had lots of ideas that nobody knew about until he became Speaker. So I think a part of that is just the reality of being a minority party and not having really the opportunity to have your ideas get aired.
We're talking to Rick Santorum here on the Steve Malmsberg Show. Chris Christie took the platform today at the RNC Boston meeting. What's your views on Christie? I mean, is this guy a serious presidential candidate as a Republican? Do you believe he could ever win the Republican primaries?
I don't know. I mean, I'm someone who probably the last person to ask as to who can't win, because I was told from the very, very beginning I could never win a Republican primary, and we did okay with the limited resources we had. So,
but you're the opposite. I mean, you appeal to a base. You appeal to who conservatives and Republicans, and I think, quite frankly, Americans are. He might appeal to a general audience in America, but do you think he would, the base would come out in these primaries and vote for him with his, very non-conservative views on many issues?
I think, Chris is a good man. He's done for a Republican in New Jersey, he's done a good job in the state of New Jersey. But he's clearly not someone who is in the center of the Republican Party nationally, and as a result of that, he's got a much more difficult task to make.
Now, of course, you gave a great speech this past Saturday. I was always take great pride in listening to you speak, because you say so many of the things that so many of us feel. And of course, you're considered on the other side of the party from the Chris Christies, if you will, along with the Cruzes and the Pauls. What's your take on this split in the party?
Well, I mean, I sort of look at it as, particularly you look at Christie, and I won't mention Cruz in this, Brett, but certainly the Pauls, actually the Christie faction and the Paul faction actually come together on one area that's a big concern to me, which is, sort of the moral and cultural issues. Both of them want to jettison, one from the left and one from the right. And that's a big concern to me, that we have movements within, sort of on either end of the party, if you will, who sort of saying, well, we don't need to be discussing these issues anymore. I think that's dangerous. The whole foundation of the Republican Party from the very beginning in 1856, its first convention, was the dignity of every human life. And that dignity of every human life is the foundation of which all our policies are built, of respect for human life and respect for the dignity of persons economically, socially, in a family life. And when we jettison that, then we jettison the whole foundation. We jettison the family as the basic building block of society. And we say, well, marriage and the family are not that important. It's just sort of one of many other lifestyles. Then again, we sort of jettison the whole idea and foundation upon which, our society is built. And I think we have a real problem. So that's one of the things that I, tangentially talked about in Iowa, that we have to engage in the culture, not in politics, but we have to do it through where the culture is being molded, and that's in the popular culture. In other words, the arts and entertainment. And that is a winning message. That is well. I know you're now the CEO of a company that could do that, but that's a winning message, because instead of running away from the life issue and everything you just said, Republicans need to take it on full steam ahead as you do. We got 30 seconds. Talk about when's the first movie coming out. Talk about the company. Well, we have a company called Echolite Studios, and you can find out about us at Echolite.com. We're still very much of a new company. We'll be launching a new website and 2 new movies coming up here in the next couple of months. Excellent. We're not quite ready to announce them, but we will shortly. All right, Rick, great to talk to you. Thank you, sir. Thanks, Steve. Rick Santorum, ladies and gentlemen, right here on the Steve Malzberg Show on Newsmax TV.